Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pot of Gold podcast. This is the show for 9 to 5 escape artists and real estate hustlers ready to build businesses with real impact. Today's guest, Coffey, knows what it takes to build, scale, and exit. He spent 18 years as a franchisee with Anytime Fitness. He co-founded and grew Frenchie's Nail Care with his wife before selling it to private equity in 2023. And now he's building Dwell Well tiny homes. That's a little bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Creating solutions for aging parents to live closer to family. He also coaches businesses on how to become franchises. And so if you are thinking long-term, scale, or planning your exit strategy, this conversation is going to be a goldmine. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
You know, it's always exciting to talk to new people, especially people who are being successful in the business space. It's kind of an interesting game and not everyone plays it.
Yeah, it is. It's not for everybody, but I'm on a mission to get more people into entrepreneurship because I truly believe it makes the world a better place. I know that sounds grandiose, but I have reasons behind that.
Well, and I think I'm on board with that because of my own experience and how it's improved and enriched my own life as I've made myself kind of an adversary to all the problems that you can face in the business space as being an entrepreneur. What's your story? How did you get started in your industry? And were you always an entrepreneur?
No, I wasn't. I went to undergrad and then worked for a few years and then went to grad school for international management. And then both my wife and I did that. And we both worked for really, really large companies for a while. She worked for AT&T's international division, and I worked for Deutsche Telekom, which is the German phone company. Until 1998. And 1998 is when I started my entrepreneurial journey. And in 2006 is when we started our franchise journey. Before 2006, I was helping people buy and sell companies, small Main Street businesses with a focus on gyms. And in 2006, I had read an article about a real small system that was starting to grow out of Minnesota called Anytime Fitness, and got really interested. Long story short is ended up buying 6 territories and growing that throughout cities in Colorado. Small towns, actually, not cities. And that led to other things. And so that's why we've been in franchising since 2000. Haven't looked back and don't regret a bit of it.
That's kind of an interesting journey then. What prompted the switch from being part of one of these big companies to entrepreneurship?
Well, first a move. So due to my wife's position, we moved from New Jersey to Colorado. And so at that time, there was no virtual and things like that. So, and the German phone company was like, well, if you're moving, you're losing your job. And I was like, okay, I get that. As much as I love them and most of the German people that I worked with and that company, the stereotype about Germans being kind of like very strict and black and white and timely is absolutely true. So that's what prompted it. We moved out here. My wife had a corporate position still, and I needed to find something to do. And being in the box of corporate, I didn't think was for me. And as soon as I started working and making money on my own and doing it the way that I wanted to do, it was like the blinders came off. And, a colleague of mine, not like I don't work with him, he's just in the same industry, franchising. He's got a podcast called Unemployable, and it's all about franchising and getting people into franchising. And that's kind of what I was after that,
Yeah,
More recently, I did work under for the platform company of the PE company that bought Frenchie's. Great people, great organization, but it's totally different than a founder and their team kind of dynamic and speed and kind of like we can go like this. So it's very different. And I learned quickly that yep, I need to be just straight entrepreneur until my dying day.
That's really interesting you say that. There's a quote that I've heard that I like this quote. It says, a mind stretched by new ideas can never return to its original shape. And sometimes there's things in life that you cross over lines that there's no going back from.
Yeah, you can't unsee it. Something similar to that is like once you hit a high level mark, like on the side of the pool or something like that, like you always see that and it's like, okay, you got to get back there. So I like that. You're right. It's absolutely true. And it really, really describes my situation anyway.
Very cool. What kind of problems did you run into as you started going into entrepreneurship? There's a lot of mindset that's involved. There's skill development. What were the particular things that you ran into?
Entrepreneurship is just becoming an expert at problem solving every day. When you're wearing every hat in the company, whether it's a plumbing problem or a marketing problem, like that's my job. And then later on, when you build up team and supplier partners and vendor partners and things like that, um, you're not wearing every hat. The problems that can't be solved at a closer level to the client always rise to the leader. And so there's always problems, and they're generally not the easiest ones to solve. So that's number one, is you just get really good at it. And then in a really good way, you become less the sky is falling on every problem that comes. You're like, okay, like I got it. Like I knew there was going to be 19 problems today. I just didn't know what they were. And here's one. It's okay. And I don't mean to make that sound negative, because after a while, that's a life skill. And like when you're
Yeah.
raising kids and out and about, like there's always problems. That's one of the reasons that I want to get more people into entrepreneurship, and I think one of the best routes for that is franchising. That's my own bias, but because I see people just freaking out at small things out in the world,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
like, this is not that big of a problem. And I'm sure I do that too. I'm not saying I'm above that at all, but it's like a lot of the problems that you see people just getting so emotional about, it's like, this is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that
Like,
actually calls up an experience from just last week. There's a guy at my work that was upset that there was no butter for the popcorn machine at the work lunchroom. And I was thinking to myself, you need to find some bigger problems, my friend.
absolutely. Yeah. The first world problems things. I have two sons, one's 17 and one's 19. And one of them just got back from working, in Madagascar, which is the fourth poorest country on the face of the planet. And
Oh
then
wow.
my other one just came back from revisiting. He was there last year too, Calcutta, India, and working with schools and kids over there. And they come back and they're like, everything's fine. What constituted a problem before is like, it's an inconvenience at most. Like when people are like, their flight's delayed at the airport and people are just pulling their hair out. And I'm like, we're in a controlled environment. There's food and drinks all around us. There's restroom
Yeah.
facilities. I think we'll be all right. But getting back to your question on the business, obviously the first thing that pops to mind is, our COVID, the shutdowns, overcoming those in the fitness and beauty industries, like many other industries. It was, we're working with people really closely. So that was a challenge. We actually used it to improve both of the lines of business that we were in. Just to stay busy and not worry about stuff, to be honest.
Mm.
It was a coping mechanism, but it really, really paid off, because all the businesses are doing better after COVID than they were before, because we made a lot of adjustments and did some things. So that's a big one. Like, I don't think, knock on wood, that we'll ever have that kind of a interruption. But it was interesting. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday that's been in franchising for 30 years, and we were talking about things, and he's like, any big system that any big business probably at one point or another had an intentional or an unintentional pause. And he gave some examples in franchising, like Orange Theory, like even Jimmy John's, which has just blowing up all over the country. They actually stopped growing for a while intentionally. Orange Theory stopped growing for a while because they needed to get their model down better. For my example, with Frenchie's Modern Nail Care, COVID stopped us, and we had time to finish up some projects that we were working on with that the time available, because we weren't able to operate. We were able to focus on finishing up those projects, and they turned out to be fantastic for the business and the franchisees and everybody involved. I think that was the biggest one, but it's in general, entrepreneurship is a problem solving issue. All the answers are there. We were talking, before this about Chat GPT. If you're
Yeah.
not checking AI first, you're making a mistake. But the number one thing I tell people is there is so much knowledge and experience, and shortening your learning curve opportunities in conversations. One of the sayings that I say all the time is like, everything happens in a conversation. And it's so surprising to people. Like if you pick up the phone or reach out to someone like you admire, or you've read about, whatever, like it's amazing how many times they will help you on your journey. They'll spend
Yeah.
15 minutes with you or 30 minutes with you, because a lot of the people that are further down the path, they're looking, it's really fulfilling to help people that are not as far down the path as you. And it's just like, just have those conversations. You can take years off of your development and things like that by having those conversations and having a lot of them, especially if you're considering a business decision, because in anything, there's going to be 20% that's negative, 20% that's positive, and the stuff that's in between. And so
Mm.
you don't want to just, have the first two conversations that are negative and think, oh, that's a bad idea. So have conversations, ask whatever AI tool you want, and don't be afraid to like build your network like immediately. Like if you're interested in something, start reaching out to people and having conversations.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really cool because it's one of the things that's helped me get around my own personal traumas. Some of the listeners already understand what's gone down with that because they watch the show on occasion, and I've told the story before. But it's hard to kind of grasp all of the intricacies of things that are going on when you're not participating, you're not in the arena. Once you start interacting with other people, you start to realize how small the world's gotten. Because just watching people from YouTube, I thought that they were kind of like celebrity status and they're kind of out of my sphere of influence. But all it took was going to some kind of a real estate event or a business event, and I can shake their hand. And it was like wild to me to come to that realization that these people are a lot more accessible than you think they are. And it's just, wow. And there's all these people that have specialized skills that you can learn from. And it's incredible that we have this opportunity in our day and age to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's also giving those people an opportunity to give back.
Yeah.
So it's
The elevator back
when you're
down.
calling to ask someone and you think you're just asking a favor that's going to help you, just realize that like a lot of people want those opportunities to give back and share what they know and make introductions and things like that. It's also an opportunity of service for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I've come to realize that that's part of where your fulfillment is going to come from, your purpose. Because while building a business is cool in itself because you want to make money, you also want to make an impact. And that's a big thing for a lot of entrepreneurs. We want to leave our mark on the world. And how better to do that than to teach other people how to do the same thing.
Exactly. It's just business is a great vehicle for personal growth and relationship building and engagement with the people around you, not just your team or your vendor, supplier, partners, or anything like that, but people in your community. That's what I found it was interesting when we were running all the Anytimes. They were in small towns around Colorado, but the closest one was an hour from my home. So I was, running these businesses and building in communities that I didn't live in. And so there was no connection at home, really. I wasn't doing much like, even my neighbors are like, where do you go all the time? I go to small towns and help run our business. And they're like, how come you don't have one here? You're like, it's not a small town. We want to build in small towns. So, and we wanted to be able to remote manage that. But that's another reason I want people to like make that jump and get into entrepreneurship, whether it's in franchising or independent or whatever, just because I think this is another way it makes the world a better place and you a better person, actually, because you have a reason to engage, is that you realize the codependency of humans on the face of the earth, and especially the ones closer to you. I always give the example of next to our office in downtown Littleton. We have all these small Main Street businesses because we're on Main Street, and some of them I really don't have any need for their services or their products, but I still go in and buy something. Like there's a spice shop. I'm not a big like chef or anything like that, but I go in there like once a month and buy something, and it's in our pantry just because I want that spice shop to be there. I want those people to be there, and if I walk by it, 30 times a month, I should probably just go in and support them.
Definitely.
You don't get that if you're
the local people, right?
Yeah. And that's harder and harder to do with, Amazon and things like that. So
That's true.
I am trying to do my part by buying local as much as possible, as convenient as it is. To be honest, if I see a business book that I really need, I don't need it by 4 a.m. the next morning. I can wait and go to my local bookseller and and pay them a little premium probably and pay a little sales tax. This is not a big item, right? It's $20 or something.
Why not do that when you're willing to pay those ridiculous sticker prices for food at airports and places like Disneyland?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you have no choice, right?
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you said something about how a lot of humanity is codependent, and I think that that's not a bad thing. I think that's really a beautiful thing. One of the things one of my mentors has told me, and I've learned this to be true, is that you don't make a single dollar without some other person involved. And so all the money you make has somebody else is involved in that somewhere along the line, whether it's your boss giving you a paycheck, whether it's a customer paying for a service. You don't make money by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never heard that. And I love that perspective. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. I like to think of those little, I'm trying to think of the word now. Dotes, I guess you call them.
Yeah, for sure.
They're very useful. Kind of little frames or systems for your mode of thought.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mindset too. It's just like, I've seen the difference between, building a lot of our businesses in smaller towns. I've seen the difference between community and places where a lot of people live close together.
Okay.
There's a difference. And I live in a beautiful area. Like there's mountains out my window right here. There's a golf course in the back. It's gorgeous, but we don't have any community. Like I know some of my neighbors and things like that, but there's no place for us to like congregate. There's no like swimming pool or fitness center or anything like that. They've just chosen not to do that. So to keep our HOAs lower and things like that, I guess. So as great as it is, and I love it here, we've been here for a long time. I compare that to a place like Steamboat Springs, Colorado, which is where one of our businesses is, the Anytime Fitness. And it's a community. Like there's 12,000 people there, but on a busy summer weekend or a ski week, the whole ski, it's Ski Town USA and Bike Town USA. It's a great, great place. If you've never been, go to Steamboat. You'll love it. Little plug for Steamboat there. But that is a community. Like if we don't we've been operating there since 2010, and there's not anything in that town where if I don't know the person that can find the person, to do that service or that product or help me out or help our team out or something, there's 1 degree of separation to find out who that is. And so many of our members there will be like, oh, I noticed you needed some body work on your car or something like that. Like John does that. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they have I didn't realize this. I have to ask my team because I don't go there a lot. I go there like 5 or 6 times a year. But I was there, I was visiting, and I was like, I just feel like a pizza tonight. I just want to go to my condo and have a pizza. And I'm like, well, where are you going to get it? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, go to How You Doing, the name of the pizza place in Steamboat, and just tell them you want the local special. And I got a large pineapple, the Hawaiian pizza for $12. It's normally $30 there, but
wow.
They support their local people because a lot of them are, it's a town that there's lots of just normal everyday people, but it's also a lot of people that are on visas there to be ski lift people or things like that, or helping out at the ski resort, the hotels, and then a lot of very, very wealthy people in their second, third, or fourth homes. So they really try to help out those people make it in Steamboat because it's already a very expensive place to live. And so they have all these insider deals if you know how to ask for them. And that's a community.
Well, I think that's a really good thing to be telling people about, especially those who are looking to create communities of their own, because then they can go to a place where it's working and kind of identify what makes this different. And then they can start to incorporate those kinds of things. So I think that's a really good suggestion and very valuable. Thank you for that.
Yeah. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, how important small conversations are, just random conversations that you have, I had a totally, and I'm not young, so it wasn't like I was young 10 years ago either. So, but the importance of community and having spaces to do that. Just another quick example, if you don't mind, is, we have our own building and we had our distribution center in it and things like that. And then during COVID, I had an offer from a really big company to lease out the whole space. And I was like, yeah, because I don't know what's going on with our business. I got a big mortgage on this place, right? So we did that and we moved into a co-working space called Shift Workspaces. There's 3 of them here in Denver, and they're absolutely wonderful. Really high end, gorgeous places, views of the Rockies and things like that. And we're like a nail care franchise. I didn't think we were going to run into a lot of people that were going to help us, or we would be in a position to help anybody else or market it or anything like that. And we had so many conversations, just random, at the snack area or They have happy hours there on Fridays and things like that. Like we ran into a problem with engineering on our HVAC systems in our nail studios because they have to have these systems. I don't know. I'm not a technical guy. And it happened to be that the regional rep for Train HVAC systems officed in there. And I got the lowdown on like what we needed to ask for from the contractor. And so I told the contractor and he's like, how do you know all this? Like my friend at Shift Workspaces told me exactly what to ask, like
Got
just
it.
so many examples like that of just walking around conversations that really, really helped. I think community is a lot bigger than people think. And it's harder now with like a lot of people working remotely and things like
Mhm.
that. It's a challenge. And to be honest, I'm of the mindset that I don't think it's good for people to always be working out
Remote.
of the house or something like that. I think, of course, I'm older, so I'm old school, but I just think those face to face and those little conversations that are outside of the meeting and aren't on an agenda or something like that, like you can learn more about the people around you and create more meaningful relationships.
No, I think you're
That's
right,
just
though.
that's just the old guy talking.
Well, I'm of the younger generation, and we had a little bit of a talk about what I went through with the fact that my face was shattered and it struggled to get back to interacting with people. And a
Yeah.
couple of things that I learned along the way were one, exercise is a really good antidepressant. It helps you manage your anxiety, thoughts,
Mm.
all these things. But the other thing is that if you are isolated, it also contributes to depression. And so
Mm.
the two things you can do to avert those kinds of feelings is to go out and move and be with other people. And
Totally.
I can't say it other than the fact that that's my personal experience. I don't have any kind of science behind it. It's just that I've tried different things, and those are the two things that really work.
Well, I think there's plenty of science behind that too. If you listen to like Andrew Huberman or someone like that, the Huberman Lab,
Yeah, I've
do you
heard
know him?
him.
Yeah, yeah. The guy is wicked smart, super interesting. I mean, he's a professor. It's at Stanford and or Bio Lane Norton. I'm 100% sure I've heard snippets of them, saying those exact things, and I think I'm going to put that into marketing for my club and Steamboat. As
Yeah,
like hey, you need to move and you need to be around people. And a great place for that is Anytime Fitness and Steamboat.
yeah, there you go. And get people to get out there, throw some kind of a company event too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I find myself if I work out of the house like 1 or 2 days a week and go in the office, but I can work out whenever I want. I have a home gym too, but I go to the gym that I go to at like 5 o'clock p.m., like probably their peak time. Especially I've been like head down on something project for a while and haven't talked to people. I just like being around that.
Yeah.
It's just more fun and I always tell people about working out. Sometimes it's for here more than here.
No,
It's just
definitely.
keeping it going. Yeah, so that's interesting that you found that. Did someone I'm just curious. I'll turn the interview table on you here for a second. Did someone say like, "Hey, Nathaniel, maybe try working out more," or something like that? Was there an incident or a point in time that happened?
It changed because my wife and I struggled with infertility.
Hmm.
And they told me that in order to increase our chances at having a child, which was one of the only things I wanted growing up as a boy,
Yeah,
was to be a dad,
nice.
that I needed to start working out. And I'd always kind of looked at the muscle heads as inferior creatures because I was proud of my intelligence, right? And so I had to kind of come to terms with the fact that my mindset about exercise and fitness was wrong.
Mm, interesting.
And that I had this identity that I had to shift about it. And I started to learn that it was something that brought me joy. I learned that your body and your mind are a single unit, they're not separated. And so if you're
Mm.
neglecting your body, your mind suffers and vice versa. Yeah, I started learning to love it once I decided that I needed to do it to help us have a chance at having kids.
And then there came Archie, right?
Yeah, yep.
Very cool.
He got his little gift for Father's Day there on the back wall. It's one of my favorite things right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fantastic journey. I'm sure you're enjoying every second of it. So,
Really good. He's going to be
um,
3 in about 2 weeks now.
yeah, nice, nice. Yeah, people say, "Oh, that age is great," and I'm like, I haven't found one that's not. Different
Yeah.
challenges. And my mother-in-law I love her to death. She's awesome. She's like the matriarch of our whole family and the point of inspiration. She has MS and has a really, really tough road,
Yeah.
and she's still seen as like my sons that play hockey and are rough and tumble and everything. Like ask them like, who's the strongest person you know, and they'll be like, yeah, teen.
Yeah.
For sure. But she's a realist too. And she's like, yeah, the bigger the kid, the bigger the troubles. So just get ready. I'm like, okay, I was having a good day.
Upgrading
Yeah.
problems all along the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
When
funny.
the oldest one turned 9, she said, well, you're halfway done. And I was like, what do you mean? This is on his birthday. And she's like, well, at 18, he's gonna leave, and then you won't spend that much time with him anymore. I was like, don't tell me that. He's 9. He's mine right now. You know. So
I hear that though, because my wife and I have been married for 12 years now. And that means when that time passes again, he'll be learning how to drive. And it doesn't feel like it was any time at all. I feel like I
yeah.
just asked her out the other day. And it's
Yeah.
just wild that the time's flown.
And when they get their driver's license, everywhere you go is separate cars
Yeah.
for some reason. Our carbon footprint in our family is not anything to brag about right now. They'll be like, hey, we're going to go out to dinner. Like, oh, well, 4 cars there. I'm like, none of us could have gone in the same car. Like,
You
but we
can
do
go
come
together.
from
That's funny.
different places. But yeah, as soon as they get their license, it's even less time. So,
Well, it's also
there's that Tim Kelly blog or article called the bitter end or the end, where he kind of puts it into context. If you live out of state and your parents are alive in another state and you go back twice a year and they're 60 and you're 30, you have like 24 more times that you'll see them in your life. Like, what? Less time than we think.
that's not guaranteed either. It's,
Yeah, good point.
no one's promised to die of old age.
Yeah,
None of us
yeah,
are guaranteed success.
yeah, yeah. That's a gift in a way, right?
Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, hey, let's get people into business and have them doing their thing. So,
Definitely.
because I think that leads to a fuller life, to be honest.
I think so as well. It's been my experience that since I started engaging myself in entrepreneurship, taking on problems voluntarily, that I've had more enriched and fulfilled lives than any time before that.
Yeah, yeah. People think it's risky, and it's like everything else is risky too. Living's risky,
Yeah. Being alive is risky.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
on
yeah.
that note, what would you say would be some good resources or maybe educational material, things that people can do to be successful on this kind of a journey?
Well, specifically, if someone's looking at franchising, whether to buy a franchise or to franchise a business that they have, I would highly recommend The Wealthy Franchisee by Scott Greenberg. It's a great book. It looks at both sides, the franchisor side as well as the franchisee side. It's realistic. It's not trying to sell you anything or anything like that. It gives you a really good picture, and it's a good read. He's a good author. Great author, I think. And then I help brands become franchises and people get into franchising. I'm not a franchise consulting, meaning, I have some brands that I would point people towards. I'm just a general, hey, I've been there, done that, been on both sides of the equation. So if someone wanted to reach out to me, my handles on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook is all the same. It's like at Key Coffey, Guycoffey. And if you mention just Nathaniel or the Pot of Gold podcast, I'd happily spend a half an hour on the phone in a discovery call. Not trying to sell you anything, just trying to provide some real world knowledge and help you make a good decision. So that's what
Amazing. Like we talked about in the episode, even there's a lot of utility in just having those conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm happy to do it. I absolutely love talking about business.
Very cool. I'll make sure to include your Instagram handle in the YouTube description as well. So if you are interested in having a conversation with Guy, go ahead and click on that link down there and we'll get you a 30-minute session with him. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience before we end the interview today, Guy?
Not really. Just, the parting word would be if you're not enjoying your work, just understand that there is a way that you can enjoy your work. And I think we spend far too much time in this life working, and I think it's necessary. I don't begrudge the work itself, but there's ways that you can enjoy your work. And one thing that I've heard recently is if your weekends are vastly different than your weekdays in terms of things you do for yourself and for enjoyment and things like that, you're probably spending 5 days a week not enjoying your life in exchange for 2 that you do. And there's got to be a better way to live than that. So just consider that.
No, I think you're spot on with that. There was a time where I was doing customer service for CenturyLink and cable television along those lines. And it was also in the time where I'm still trying to overcome this reluctance to be around people. And I hated that job because there's people always yelling at me. And I'm still trying to work through my trauma of the other things that have happened. And I was only making $10 an hour. I was like, if I keep going like this, I'm not going to stick around. Like, it was dark enough for that. And so I was like, if I don't make a change, then something bad's going to happen. And it was actually a good thing. The pain and the stress of that job forced me to make a change. And so I went back and I learned a trade. And then now we're here trying to make another upgrade. And so I definitely think that there's utility in that. You can change your situation, you guys. You just have to make some scary decisions. Because what I did is I quit that job with no plan. And I don't recommend doing that, but it also made it to where I had no choice but to figure it out.
Yeah. That's I have a book coming out in about 3 or 4 months. It should be done. And in it I just talk about there's lots of steps towards entrepreneurship and things like that. And no matter what, there's always a leap. There's always a
Yeah.
leap where you're like, you just gotta like fit. And that doesn't mean, if there's still a gap between like you feeling totally comfortable and making that jump, that's normal. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to make a leap,
And I just
especially if you're
remind
young.
people, yeah, definitely. I just like to remind people that everything that has been in your life up to this point, you have figured out and made it through.
Yeah.
Why is that going to change in the future? It doesn't seem like that's very logical. But I'd like to thank the audience once again for tuning in. This has been the Pot of Gold podcast, and we're talking about finances, business, and all the things that are necessary for you to become an entrepreneur, leave your 9 to 5, and live life on your own terms. Thank you again.
Thanks, Nathaniel.